Welcome to this edition of Oskaloosa Today. I'm your host, RJ Jarvis II. With the official start of summer just around the corner, many people across the community are getting excited. This excitement could come from the heat or possible vacation plans, but it's also racing season. And racing season in Southern Iowa is a big-time deal, evident by the Southern Iowa Speedway's jam-packed stands on Wednesday nights, right here in Oskaloosa. There are a lot of talented drivers that race there, but the focus of this edition of Oskaloosa Today is on one who doesn't. I hope you enjoy the hometown racer story of Curtis Vander Wahl. "30-year-old Curtis Vander Wahl was born and raised in Oskaloosa. He started out go-karting at the age of 10. His success in racing has helped him rise to a racing series that is just a step down from NASCAR, the pinnacle of stock car racing. The series he races in is called the ASA. The reason Kurt doesn't race in Oskaloosa is because the ASA is an asphalt or pavement racing division, with the closest asphalt track being over an hour away in either Cedar Rapids or Newton. Many Oskaloosa race fans don't get to see Kurt in action. For the most part, he races at Hawkeye Downs, the track located in Cedar Rapids. Since the year 2000, he has raced in over 90 races there and has placed in the top 5, he estimates, around 80% of the time he races. He has also won over 30 races at that track. With his past successes in mind, Kurt is hard-pressed to say any one victory was bigger than another.
This is my biggest race is my next race. There have been some great ones, some long-distance races, some unbelievably historic races that we've been able to win, and there have been some just regular Friday or Saturday night races that we've won.
While winning may provide a racer with individual accolades and notoriety, it is very much a team accomplishment. As you heard Kurt say the word "we" a lot in that last statement, evidence that his success on the track is heavily reliant upon the skill of his racing team, which includes his father Marvin and his younger brother Corey. Working with family also presents some of its own challenges.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, it's good that we're family because we're as close as we are and we can do some things that you wouldn't be able to do with other people, but at the same time, because it is family, it makes some things hard because it makes it hard to be able to say, I can't come over to do that tonight because I got to go do something else. You know, it's hard to tell your brother or your dad that you're not available.
So for Kurt to be successful, he needs his brother and father every step of the way. During the races, Corey is ready for any quick repair to the car that Kurt may need, and Marvin acts as a spotter, tracking what is going on ahead of and behind Kurt, in addition to keeping track of how long it takes him to complete a lap. In an earlier interview, Kurt discussed his family's focus on race day.
I think every time we go to the racetrack, it should, no matter what has happened, whether if a family suffered a loss or if it was a particularly trying week or anything, when you go to the racetrack, it just seems like all that goes away because everybody's there for a common goal.
While the common goal is to win every time he starts up his car on the racetrack, new advances in technology have made it more challenging to get Kurt's car ready to race.
There's been a lot of development in the last 3 or 4 years. For 25 years, the setups remain relatively unchanged, and there's been so much development in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years that it's hard to stay on the cutting edge of that, and something that even worked last fall probably isn't going to work.
Speaking of work, another challenge that Kurt faces is making time for his racing aspirations while maintaining a steady job. When we first met Kurt, he was working at a credit union, but he left that job for a less stressful occupation as a salesman for Van Zanten Enterprises in Pella, which makes equipment and tools that can be used in the racing and automotive fields.
I love the financial industry and working in it, but I needed to do something a little bit less structured that would allow me to just kind of do the 8 to 5 job where it doesn't necessarily matter if I miss a day of work. If I didn't get something done today, it's fine. It'll be there tomorrow to do or something like that. It's a lot better that way.
Changing jobs has helped Kurt balance out his schedule and allowed him more time for racing and the preparations needed for the sport. It will also give him more time to focus on getting sponsors for his car, an issue he cites as a weakness that he and his team are struggling to overcome.
We're great at making race cars go fast and look good and all that fun stuff, but we're horrible at finding money. So the biggest thing that we could do would be to A, find an education in that, and B, maybe find somebody to help us with that sort of thing.
Getting more sponsors is something that is very important for Kurt, as he and his team are faced with higher costs in parts, equipment, and even the gas it takes to drive the trailer with his cars to the track. Despite these odds, Kurt has been able to remain competitive with his $30,000 yearly budget against teams that have several $100,000 to spend on their cars during the season. Kurt can spend anywhere between $1,500 and $6,000 for a weekend of racing, depending on the race and its location. But this year, rising gas prices are playing a factor in how often he can race.
Well, I mean, gas prices being high affect everything. I don't see how it can't. Bottom line, it caused us to take the pool of money that we have to race this year and a lot more of it to get in the truck up and down the road. It's just basically caused us to take money that we would normally buy pit passes or tires or parts for the race car and allot it to just get to the racetrack, which in turn then doesn't allow us to race as many races at the end of the year. So it's kind of a vicious circle.
Kurt's race car is able to take upgraded gas station fuel, which is still about $1 cheaper than what high-octane race car fuel would be. Even so, this vicious circle of higher costs versus an already tight budget gets more intense when you factor in an accident, which can cost Kurt's team and car owner, Gene Peterson, a lot of money to repair. The week after Kurt won the first race held at Hawkeye Downs this year, he got into an accident and was unable to finish the race. He wasn't injured, but the car cost over $1,000 to repair. Weather can also play a factor in the sport, as the last race at Hawkeye Downs was rained out, after Kurt and Corey spent many hours working to restore the car from that accident. Kurt takes accidents very personally.
I don't want to equate it to one of my children being hurt, but it's really close to that, because you know that it's going to be your time and your effort and your sweat and most of all money that's going into this situation to help fix it. And I feel bad for my family then, because that causes me to be at the shop even more than I normally would be and away from them. And bottom line, it puts us in a position now where we had a pretty well budgeted deal out where we thought we could run all year on the amount of money that we had. Unfortunately, that's about a $1,500 accident there. So really, we didn't win the race. We got 14th or whatever. That takes about $1,000 out of your pay, plus you had $1,500 in expenses that you wouldn't have normally had. That's a $2,500 swing in a matter of 5 seconds.
While winning the race at Hawkeye Downs would bring in $1,000, there's no dollar amount that Kurt could put on the time it takes him to get his car ready for the big race. Time is very important to Kurt, as any time he has to spend at the track or in the shop is time he can't be with his wife and 2 young sons, Connor and Cole. But sometimes his family comes to spend time with him in the shop.
My 2 boys and my wife are the highlight of my life. Anytime I see them, it makes my day better. No matter if my day was an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, when I see them, I go up a couple, 2 or 3 more points. It's a very nice thing. But yeah, the enthusiasm that especially my oldest boy has for race cars and trucks and coming to the race car shop, that's a really neat thing. And hopefully in a couple years he'll maybe want to be a racer, and then it's my job to help him be as good a little racer as he can be and get him into go-karting and hopefully shorten his learning curve with my experiences that I've had through my life.
Go-karting would be an appropriate place to start for young Connor, as it's where his uncle, Corey, and of course his father got their start. They began as youths driving laps around this track here, once known as Rhea Speedway. It's the same track where NASCAR driver Tony Stewart won the Duffy, an international go-kart racing award. Jimmy Carter, a racing team owner, put together the team that his sons, as well as the Vander Wahl boys, competed on against other go-kart teams. He talks about the young Kurt Vander Wahl.
Kurt was really very methodical about getting his race machine prepared. Always really very detailed on all the things that he done on his race machine. Always very good looking race car, very well prepared. You know, a lot of young boys like to race, but they don't like to work on them. They don't want anything to do with the work aspect of it. And in racing, like in various activities and sports, when you want to put 100% into it, it shows up at the track.
Carter knows a lot about showing up at the track, being that he was a successful go-kart racer, as was his son BJ, and now his 3 grandsons, Carter, Caden, and Braden, are all achieving great success and they can look to Kurt as one example for the success they can strive for. AJ Johnson, an 18-year-old stock car racer who recently placed second at the track here in Oskaloosa, talks about what seeing Kurt's success means to him.
It's real kind of hopeful, you know, that somebody coming from my kind of level of racing can go and actually, you know, compete at a higher level, and I think that gives me kind of faith and some hope that I can do that someday myself, you know.
Many young drivers in the area can look up to Kurt, and he has some advice for any young racers looking to follow in his tracks.
Get involved as soon as you can. I've got some friends that are little go-kart racers that are 10, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, and they've been doing it for 4 or 5 years. You know, I started when I was 9 years old. Get involved as soon as you can. Other than that, figure out a way to get money, because without money, none of the rest of it matters. You could be the best race car driver in the world, and without the funds to do it, you're never going to be noticed. That's the big difference between racing and stick and ball sports. If you're the best football player at your high school, you're probably going to get noticed and go to a good college. If you're the best college football player, you're probably going to go play pro football. Automobile racing, you probably have never even seen, read, or heard about the absolute best race car driver that ever lived, because he didn't get the opportunity to advance through the ranks that it takes, because it's so much more than just your talent. Your equipment matters a lot, and the help that you receive as you're coming up through the ladder.
Some of Kurt's competition has thought that his success could be attributed to an unfair advantage, and disclosed their beliefs that he was illegally modifying his vehicle. Kurt was able to make it through that experience, but it was very challenging.
Publicly, you've got to put on a strong face and say that it doesn't matter, but deep down it does, because what's really happening is they're questioning your integrity and saying that what you're doing is not right. They're not giving you credit for working 40 or 50 hours in the shop during the week. They're not giving you credit for having the brain power to outthink them. They're not giving you credit for your fabricating skills and your ability to build a better race car than they had. And they're also not giving you any credit for the type of driver that you are. And that's really, really hard for me to accept.
Another thing that may be difficult for Kurt to accept is that at the age of 30, his window of opportunity to go onto a higher level is quickly closing. As he has noted, many race car drivers his age would have moved on to NASCAR by the time they were his age. Even so, he still has dreams.
My biggest goal would be to get to the point where I can do this for a living. It's what we compete against on a daily basis, is people that get up in the morning and they go work on race cars for a living. So that would be really nice if I could get to that point in time, and maybe the parts business would take off enough to where we could do that in our fabrication and fixing people's race cars and stuff like that. That would really be neat. But I think if nothing else, know that I've helped other people learn in racing, and that maybe people think of me as a pretty darn good race car driver.
The titles of father, brother, and husband last a lifetime. The title race car driver is a bit more fleeting. And while Kurt hasn't raced in his last race yet, he knows how he would like it to play out.
No matter what it is, I want it to be my last race ever. I want it to be an extremely successful one, and I want to stop racing standing in victory lane. Last time I climb out of a race car would be in victory lane. That would be about as good as it gets.
For the next half of Oskaloosa Today, we'll look at another family with a legacy in sports here in Oskaloosa, and the Smith family golf legacy, hosted by AJ Hodgman. Enjoy.
The Oskaloosa Area Chamber and Development Group held its annual awards last Thursday. One of those awards is the Acorn Award. That's given to a business that's shown tremendous success and has been in operation less than 10 years. The winner of that award was Harvest Point Golf Course. Now, while Harvest Point may still be fairly new to the Oskaloosa community, the people behind the course are no strangers to the game. Harvest Point Golf Course, one of Oskaloosa's premier golf establishments, is home to a family that has been golfing through 4 generations. And Ted Smith has played a lot of golf. I mean a lot of it. Seasoned to the age of 71, Ted has been playing golf since the 1950s and still plays as much as he can today.
I probably golf 3 or 4 times a week, and I don't golf every day, but if I'm over here every day doing something or another.
Ted is not the only one who enjoys golf. So do all of his sons. There are 4 of them. 2 of them live here in Oskaloosa, and they are all involved with the sport of golf in some way. The oldest, Jeff, works as a PGA pro and owns his own course. Steve works on a golf course in Las Vegas. Jerry was on the PGA Tour for 5 years, and the youngest Mike is a superintendent at Harvest Point. But where did Ted learn the game? Where else? From his father, Ted Sr., who worked as a superintendent for Edmondson Golf Course back in the 1950s.
I worked for my father through high school and got winter jobs in the wintertime and kind of started from there. And I had my first year-round job in the early 60s over in Council Bluffs, and I was over there for about 3 years. And then when Edmondson was going to expand to 18 holes, I moved back here, and my family and I and my wife pretty much took care of the clubhouse operations, and I was out on the golf course. And my father was a superintendent, and his father, and now I've got all my kids are